Okay guys, real quick, one thing that I wanted to mention before we get into this video, which is an introduction to boondocking. I wanted to tell you how to find boondocking, because that seems to be an issue, and it is for me in where I live. I will tell you the number one easiest way to find somewhere to boondock is to use the website freecampsites.net. However, if you got a 30-foot camper, I wouldn't just like head out to one of those sites just because it's on there. So number one, it does have some other sites, but it shows you which ones are free. And you just need to go, we call it scout those out before you actually go up there. Because all the ones in my area at home and that are the ones closest to me would be like in the Ocoee area. There's a lot of nice places up there that I would like to take my camper to, but the camper realistically wouldn't go there. So it's a lot easier if you have a camper van or something like that. But you just need to scout these areas out, especially the free areas, before you go. I'm one of the world's worst about just looking at the dimensions on a campsite and just saying, let's go, boom. Yeah, because I'm a busy guy and I don't want to take time to go do all this scouting. But if I'm going off grid, like when I came back here, I spent one whole day down here just so I would know what I was getting into and where I was going. And I still had a couple of areas that I was like, I'm not sure about this, but I gave it a try. And it's an area where I should have went another way. So you really need to do a good job at scouting out and just knowing what you're comfortable with as you're driving through these roads, and you're seeing the clearances of the trees, and you're seeing the potholes, and you're seeing how tight the turns are, and you're seeing how narrow the road is. Okay, I'm good with a lot of these things, but sometimes things happen and you just have to know that you can handle that and not get too stressed out about it if you meet a car on this road. This week's episode is going to be about an introduction to boondocking. A lot of people don't know what boondocking is. So boondocking is a term that basically means dry camping in a camper usually. So we use that term whenever we're traveling and we just stay somewhere overnight, like in a parking lot. We use that term when we go somewhere out like this in the middle of nowhere. This is Citico Creek. I had a video on this last week. Be sure to check that out. It's going to be linked up here and in the description. But, you know, basically you have no hookups. So all these things that some people find very important: electricity, water, and sewer. There'll be none of that with the term boondocking thrown in. Now, every now and then you'll be lucky enough to go boondocking somewhere where they will have like a water spigot nearby or a dump station or something like that. There's none of that around here. So there's some things that you got to think about before you go boondocking. Okay. Probably one of the most important things is electricity. Now, all of these areas that I'm going to talk about, you can spend as much effort or as little effort as you need to based on your needs and what you want to do with your camper while you're boondocking. Okay? So number one is electricity. So you have a battery on your camper usually. If you have a lead acid or an AGM battery, you have to remember you're only supposed to discharge that about 50% at any given time, because if you do that more than once or twice, it can kill your batteries. Okay? If you have lithium batteries, some companies say different things. I have Line Energy. It says you can discharge them all the way down and all the way back up. And they actually give you a lifetime warranty that after, I think it's 35,000 charge cycles, that they'll retain 85% of their original capacity. So in the long run, those are really expensive, but in the long run, they're supposed to be the cheapest option because they have like the lifetime warranty. Okay? So the issue is depending on how much you're going to use your battery and how can you recharge it. So there's a number of things that you can do to recharge your batteries. Number one is have a generator. Now I'm also going to tell you that if you use your generator and you just plug your camper in, it's going to give you power right away. And that way you can do all those things that you're accustomed to. If you want to watch TV, if you want to run the lights, if you want to do all that stuff, and it'll be charging your battery a little bit at the same time. However, if you want to run your air conditioner, that's also possible. but you're gonna need either like a 3,500 watt unit. Some people do the soft start air conditioner units and supposedly run them with like one 2,000 watt unit. You can get two of those smaller like 2,000 watt generators and parallel them together to make like one 4,000 watt generator. The thing you got to worry about with that is they're easier to move around for you, but they're also easier for somebody else to move around. So you got to keep that in mind, okay? Because they're easy for somebody to run off with. We have the Harbor Freight Predator 3500. Link a video of installing that in the camper here. It's made it tremendously easy, even though it wasn't that easy to install. Also, we recently got a remote start kit from Generator Upgrade Supply, and that thing's come in really handy on this trip where we're boondocking back here. Other ways you can charge your batteries is if your trailer's plugged into your tow vehicle, it usually causes a trickle charge there from your alternator, but that's not going to be enough to sustain anything or to really charge your battery while you're out boondocking. Okay. Other ways that you can charge your batteries is with solar energy. So we have our 300 watt Renogy Premium Kit. We put that on this camper a few weeks ago. That video is going to be right here. And you know, for me so far, it's been doing really good at home, keeping the batteries topped off. But I did find an issue on this trip. And so we came out here in my battery monitor, which that's really important. If you don't have a battery monitor, get you a battery monitor. Those things are like $40 on Amazon, $30, $40. And they tell you so much. Everything like runs through a shunt with that. So all your negatives go to this one shunt, and your shunt takes the negative and puts one wire over to your battery. So everything goes through that shunt, and it keeps track of how many amp hours is your battery, and you calibrate it to where it's full. And so it tells you real time how much is left. It doesn't matter what you're running. It doesn't matter if you're charging or anything like that. And it also shows you the net decrease or the net increase in the charging abilities while you're doing that real time. So it was something before that I looked at that I was like, I don't know if I'll use that, but I've used it a ton on this boondocking trip, and it's really easy. One thing that I will caution you is that your refrigerator, even though it's propane, it does use electricity, so it will have a draw on your battery, as well as your furnace. Your furnace has an electric blower that will kick on. I've never really thought about this until I had that battery monitor, but I will tell you that just a few lights and the furnace running, and it's getting the heat from the propane, but with the furnace running and a few lights, it was drawing about 16 amps. And that's quite a bit. That's a lot more than I had actually anticipated that it used. Okay. So thing number two that you got to think about is water. So I got most of the way up here on this trip, and I kept thinking, I forgot something. What did I forget? And I couldn't think of it. And about the time I got to Sweetwater, Tennessee, ironically enough, I was like, I didn't get any water. So my tank holds, I think, about 60 gallons of water. And I do have 3 6-gallon tanks that I keep under my bed. And that way, if we're somewhere where we don't have water and we need some water, we can fill those up and take about 3 trips and go fill the water tank up. But I didn't want to come all the way back in here. So I did stop at a few stores. One store in Sweetwater was nice enough to help me use their water hose. And I did go in and I made a purchase there to show my gratitude, because they didn't really have to do that. And you could tell there was a little bit of hesitancy there. With water, you just want to be careful about how much water you use, because number one, you don't want to fill your tanks up. Number two, you don't want to run out of water. An easy way to do this is to act like you're boondocking when you're at a full hookup site. So don't connect the water hose, just fill your tank. You can fill it right there at the site. And don't connect your sewer hose. And if you're feeling brave enough, don't connect your electricity. But you can learn these things in sequence, so you don't have to be thrown into it all at once, okay? I'll tell you that the number one tank that you're gonna fill up first is gonna be your gray tank. Usually people's black tank lasts longer than what they're gonna stay out here, if it's just for a few days at least. And so that gray tank's gonna fill up first. If you have a portable waste tank, you can use that. Usually I don't have one, because we usually just go somewhere for a few days at a time. and it's been fine for me. I can actually go for the weekend, I can take a full length shower, not even any of that, turn the water off, turn the water back on, and I can be fine. But that is something that you have to think about. So like when you take a shower, if you take a shower, you know, you can turn the water on, you can turn the water off. Most shower heads have the thing where you turn it off. They call it a Navy shower. You know, you just wash off, and you turn the water on and rinse off. You don't want to leave the water on when you're like brushing your teeth. A lot of people, when they're boondocking, use paper plates instead of real plates, and that way they have to do less dishes to do, so they don't fill their gray tank up and they can serve water that way. All kinds of things you can think about. Some people wash dishes in a basin, and that way they can dump the water outside instead of having to dump it down the drain into the gray tank. And the third thing, of course, is sewer. Sewers seems to always be an issue. Some people have a sewer clean out at home that they're comfortable dumping their tanks in. Some people don't have that. I don't have that. I don't keep the camper in my house. And so in this particular trip, I know that there's a truck stop on my way home that lets me use their dump station, but there is a charge of $10 for that. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. But these are the 3 things that you want to think about before you go boondocking. Now, ways around that is not use electricity, just act like you're in a tent. But what's the purpose of bringing a camper if you do that, right? Number 2 is act like you don't have water. So that's actually a pretty common thing that people do, is especially in the winter time around here. I winterize and de-winterize every time I take a trip because I just get full use of my camper and it's not that big of a deal. But some people just take it dry. They leave the antifreeze in or the air in it, however they winterized it, and they just go somewhere with a bathhouse or something, and that way they act like they don't even have a bathroom. If you do that, there's no reason for you to have water. And so it's just up to your comfort level and what you want to do. Obviously, if you're going to use the bathroom in the camper, you do have to have some water, and you do have to have a plan on dumping that sewer hose. So that's, you know, a few of the issues there.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.